out and about, out to feed the birds, and it's a little chilly. Mm? And then I'm gonna go to a coffee shop. Just to get out of the house for a bit because it's been bombarded with radiation. God bless Canada for the hate they're giving me to receive the same in return tenfold. Ya Rabbal Alameen. So that's what I'm saying. God give them what they're giving me tenfolds. You know, and so I'm gonna try to get the bird to come out here. Let's see if I can do this with one hand. Okay. Yeah, you see that coming. Yeah. Hi. Okay, go. I'm not sure if I'm gonna get the other ones to come back here. Hmm. They're eating. Yeah, that's my apartment, and I'll show you where's my apartment. Let's see if I can show you. Yeah, that's my apartment, and that's the apartment. The guy who jumps from my apartment into my balcony. He jumped from, the one next to it. I'll show you. So that one, my apartment, was like a kind of window covering there, and this is the one. The lady who lives in that apartment, she's on wheelchair, so she's handicapped, and so I know it's not her who's doing this, but somebody coming into her apartment and using her basically space to jump in mine, to break the law and jump into mine. So that's what they're doing. Mm. Now what's going on, guys? The enemy is very crafty. They break the law and they enjoy doing it because they're all getting paid. Everybody's getting paid. Why I didn't get an apartment like that with no shared balcony like that one? This one, there's no shared balcony. The one in the middle there. See those ones? They're not shared balcony ones. They're not shared with anybody. Why I didn't get one of those? Why I had to get in that freaking one? But they make sure they give you an apartment where you're sandwiched but between people. They sandwich you between people so they could violate you. Okay? So these are two males, you see? Hey, don't be a bully. Leave him alone. This one is chasing that one. He doesn't want him to eat. And because he's like, it's territorial kind of thing, you know. And there's a bunch of, they split out today because I guess I was late. I was late coming down. There's a bunch over there. I don't know if you can see them. Let me see if I can make the camera big. Let's see if you can see it. So they are over there. This is a little too far. I don't know. I should have split the seats. Maybe half here and half over there. But you know, you win some and you lose some. That's exactly what happened. I didn't know there were that many over there too. Yeah. So anyhow, what I want to talk about today. I wanted to talk about, you know, what's going on and the hierarchy, you know. Anyhow, I watched Fly Me to the Moon, where they told the story about how they fake going to the moon and, you know, and stuff like that. And finally coming out clean. They really don't, you know, for the longest time. They wouldn't go to the moon, you know why? Because there are three moons, right? There's only one livable one. Not the one, I don't think this is the one in our sky, is the livable one. Maybe it is. I don't know. But they, you know, the three moon goddess, there's one, you know, or from the teaching is there's why they call them the three moon goddesses, because there's three moons, but then one livable one, you know, is actually you could inhabit. Not sure if it's the same one, you know, in the sky or not. Okay, so that's something to think about for a second, to figure out which one. But why does it matter really? I don't think it matters, you know. And yeah, what I want to talk about, I was just watching something that reminded me of my mother. And I saw this horse. He's been neglected. And he's very frail, you know, horse. And basically starved and stuff, and they've been confiscated by the government because for neglect, and the government put an ad, and they said anybody who want any of these animals, they can come and get them, otherwise they're going to be killed. Anyhow, this guy went and got a horse and you know, taking care of this horse, and it, you know, is healed and became well again, and kind of but that's not the part that reminds me of my mother. The horse the horse that is being rescued, when they were giving them like a back rub, this horse is making these faces, you know, it's like, you know, faces of like, you know, enjoyed. He's really enjoying this. He's enjoying being, you know, rubbed down. And yeah, so that was kind of remind me of my mother, because I used to rub her feet when she's tired. She would always say, "Oh, Buddha, come and rub my feet, you know, my back, you know." And she used to have this, she make this face like she's really enjoying it. So that would remind me, not the horse situation, but it remind me this, you know. And I couldn't understand why would this enemy would kill my mother so they can take her DNA and splice it with theirs, you know, because because of our bloodline, and so that would happen. My mom and aunt had to die because they're twins. I spoke about that, right? And why they were killed. So if they don't want to be, black, I'm talking about the crown. Why the crown doesn't want to be black? Want no association with blackness. When, when there was rumors, they said the queen said that she's a great grandchild of Prophet Muhammad. They're related. Back then, I didn't believe it. I thought, come on, really? Oh, this lady is like must be senile for her to to think she's related to Prophet Muhammad, and But then when I dig into the history of the crown, their ancestry, and I unravel a lot of truth. Their great grandfather, great grand, the seed where the seeds came from. King George, King George is black. They just they erased him from the history of being black. Did you know that? Yeah, true story. King George was black, was black person. And that's how they. Then it dawned on me. Yeah, now I get it. Now I get it when the queen says that she's a great infinitely child of Prophet Muhammad. So it makes sense to me. Now, it could be truth, it could be a lie. And I've already made a video before about there are, Cain and Abel. They are the house of Cain. We are the house of Abel. My family is a house of Abel. You understand? Because what do you call it? Eve had children with Adam. So we're a house of Adam. We are the seed of Adam and Eve together. Cain is Eve and Satan together. You understand? So Cain is a half brother. That's why he killed his brother out of jealousy, right? So, and then I've learned other things. It was not just King George was a black person. Okay, there was Queen Charlotte. Queen Charlotte was a black person too. Did you know that? I bet you never heard about this before. Queen Charlotte was a black person. Okay. And yeah, so there's a lot of blackness in that, and then they just decided to hide the identity of their ancestry, which is like, there's nothing wrong with being black. I'm not saying it because I think there's something wrong with it. No. I'm just saying it why you hide the fact. You try to hide the fact so hard to hide your ancestry identity. When I said they came from Egypt, so now it makes sense to you, when the queen says she's a great child of Prophet Muhammad. It makes sense because you know what I'm saying? Because most of the prophets are African and Middle Eastern, but mostly black. They're mostly black. You understand? So then, from my research, I found out they had, pre-creation, they had genetic problems. Because the serpent seed had genetic problems. Where things, they would have issues with, development issues with, issues with what do you call it? Yeah, issues with development and issues with just you know due to the God did not intend for this creation to be made, but then it happened, and then so obviously it had genetic problems because they're not intended to be created. Okay, so that why they were given chances before being exterminated in the past. Part of it because what they were doing on Earth, and they were also they were pretty much indulging too much on human suffering, and they're indulging in a lot of things, eating flesh and all of that. Okay, so I've been thinking about that for the horse story reminded me of my mother because she was a good person. She was not from a house of Cain, by the way. Almost got run over. But anyhow, squirrel is across the street. Anyhow, why would you want the DNA from somebody from the house of Abraham? Because they know something about us. That why my mom and aunt had to die. So they can improve their DNA. So they do DNA splicing or DNA editing to improve their genetics. Okay, that's exactly what happened. And my mother and aunt were not the lucky ones. My mom and my aunt, if they were identical twins, one of them had to die, would have had to die, not both of them. You understand? But they're not identical. That's why both of them had to go, because they need both of their DNA. Because if they're not identical, they get, I explained it before, one will get this type of DNA, the other one will get that type of. They wanted the whole DNA sequence. Okay, so that's what I thought about that, and I wanted to, why they killed both of them, why they killed both. And it's not obvious. Obviously it's not, because it has nothing to do with they don't want their blackness. They just want their good genetic genes. That's what they want. They don't want their blackness. So when the DNA is spliced, they make sure they don't get their blackness, because they don't want to be black. How could a nation gone from black to white with no return? My family, yeah, recently they're marrying outside. They're marrying other races and stuff. If you're Muslim, yeah, they'll marry, because they go by the book. But back in the day, there was not interbreeding, mixing, and no. When my extended family used to marry outside, it would be look at you like what are you doing? What are you doing? Why would you marry somebody from outside? What's wrong with somebody from your home country? They used to be like that. They used to be very demeaning. Why would you have to marry outside of your race? What's wrong with we have here? Used to be like that. And now becoming more accepting. I have cousins and uncles, and they married like outside of race. So what I'm saying is, if us who want to, open ourselves to other possibilities, you know, why would you want? Wouldn't want you? Why wouldn't you want your blackness? You have to wipe it off the face of the map. Why? I'm trying to understand this because it's not normal to me, and it's not normal to me for someone to make sure they only marry white. Okay, you know, and so it made me think about that. You know what? You know. What her name? Markle. What her name? Markle. I can't remember her first name. See, I'm forgetful. But anyhow, what her name again? The one she's married to Harry. Sure. But anyhow, when she said that they have problem with the skin of her unborn child, they were worried about the color of his skin. How dark he's gonna be. That means the family has issue with dark, blackness. You understand? So you go back to the history again, you'll find out from that era their ancestry from the kings and queens that came from the same bloodline. They end up breaking the statue. If you go back, you'll see king this, king that, from the same bloodline. They've broken their nose. Why do you think they broke the nose? Because they broke the nose because in genetics, a black nose and a white nose, they looked much different. You understand? They're trying to hide their genetic, who they were before their whiteness came, before whiteness took over. Okay? It's like to go in such a extreme to break every nose that kings and queens they had from their bloodline to hide the fact there's blackness in them. That what I said, they were in Egypt. When I saw Moses, who was fighting one of their forefathers or whatever, I wasn't lying. You know what I mean? What I'm saying is true. Why would somebody go to such extreme? Okay? My ancestry, they're not like that, We would not go and hide the fact my great-grandfather was this ethnic origin on that, we don't go through such extreme to hide the fact, our true identity. Why? That's what I'm kind of wrap my head around it. Why would be a problem for if your ancestry came from black, right? Some of even the portraits, the photos they made, you will see, the kings and queens and their bloodline are black, So this, that's I'm the one Queen Charlotte and King George. That's the only two I can think of. But there's more. I'm a little forgetful sometimes. Because okay, I don't want to remember everything. It's not really important to me to remember everything. Look it up online. But anyhow, so if you have a problem with your own ancestry, why would my mom and aunt had to die? They're black. Are they Chinese? Are they like German? Are they like what are they? Are they like French white guy people? Are they Caucasian? My mom and my aunt, are they Caucasian? What are they? What are they for you to end their life before their time, I believe, they could have been still alive, kicking, if he didn't end their life. Why would you want a genetic of somebody who's black? Why? Tell me why you want a genetic of somebody who's black. You denied yourself your heritage, who you came, where you came from, and all of that. But yet you kill a black person to take their DNA. What is it about our DNA you want? What is it about my DNA you want? You understand? And then you have problem, marrying blacks or ethnic groups because you don't want your kids to be tainted with blackness. Guess I'm thinking out loud here. What's going on? Well, really, what's going on? Nobody can tell me what's actually going on. Okay? I just cannot wrap my head around it. You know? It's like race is an issue. Race is an issue. But my thought, on this, because they know black came before white. You understand? So they went into this genetic pool, genetic editing and stuff. Satan was created before humanity. You know that. When he was in the garden, he was created before them. And they told you in history. He was an angel and he was cursed and stuff. So he was created before. He knows about, genetics. So that why it's easy for him to work with his scientist demons to create a race by stripping that race from blackness. Okay? So that's what happened. But why? Why you want what you hate? Why you want the DNA of somebody you hate? Can somebody explain to me why? Unless our DNA is better than your DNA. You know what I'm saying? That's the only thing I can think of, because I'm thinking about this for a while. Why my mother had to die. I've been thinking about this. Why my mom had to be, her life had to end so short because you want something from her. Okay? So that one theory. Why? I just told you what's one theory. There could be more, but they're never gonna tell me the truth. But Mary J. and the one who does like a reader on YouTube, I told you, one time she was talking and she says, somebody have done you wrong and that person is gonna fess up. That person is gonna fess up, is gonna come out clean, and is going to tell you why they did you wrong. I think that message is for me, but I don't really care to know. Knowing is not gonna bring my mom and aunt or the suffering is gonna undo what you've done. No. So knowing it doesn't mean anything to me. It's not gonna bring back time. Okay? So I don't really care to know. And so Mary J, even though she does reading on Toro, whatever, I don't really care to know, lady. It doesn't change anything, and I do not care to know. It's not gonna really, raise my mom up from the dead. It's not gonna undo the suffering you put me through, put my family through. Oh, the 144th through. With that, when people fessing up, would that gonna undo anything? You guys, 144,000, think about this for a second. And fessing up or coming out clean, will they undo the suffering they have put you through? To me, it doesn't. Do I care to know? No. So I don't want to know what they want to tell me, you know? And because you cannot undo what you've done.